Hello, and welcome to episode 52 of Intercultural Insiders. My name is John McGraw, and I help newcomers, expats, and businesses connect across cultures to succeed in less time and pain. I am the founder of Hyaku Coaching, which is dedicated to helping you create your new pathway to success in a new culture. The purpose of Intercultural Insiders is to share the stories of people with intercultural experiences. So if you're feeling isolated or lost, you can hear something from the guests' experiences that could help you, even if it's just a reminder that you're not alone. Today is part 2 of the conversation with Miguel Abascal, and he has a lot of great things to share today, just as we did last week. But as always, I'd like to start off with a couple of announcements. First of all, a quick update about last week's coaching, a project manager's superpower event hosted by LPMN, Latin Project Management Network. It was a fantastic event, an opportunity for project managers to learn about coaching, the benefits of coaching as designated by the Project Management Institute. So I was there speaking with my fellow colleague, Dinesh Sharma, who is the CEO of BMG and an HR specialist for many decades, and it had an opportunity to speak to, I think, between the online and in-person attendance was around 100 people who were very eager to share their thoughts and also to participate in the exercises that we had near the end of the event, for them an opportunity to coach themselves in a fantastic venue, Ernst & Young offices on the 40th floor in downtown, an office space in downtown Toronto. Really an amazing space with a lot of great interaction, a lot of great feedback that we got on the event. So I really enjoyed it. And I would say it's fantastic. It was a fantastic event. So yeah, I definitely would encourage you, if you have any other opportunities, to go to an LPMN event. If you're in project management or obviously a Latin origin, even if you're not, then it's still a great opportunity to network with other project managers and to learn about that. So we also an event coming up on Tuesday, the 14th, is a Culture of Cohesion Summit 2023, being run by the Intercultural Skills Lab in the Rotman School of Business. So the focus is on building interculturally inclusive and effective teams. Diversity shapes the workforce, inclusion makes it work. So the Culture of Cohesion Summit brings together inclusion executives, researchers, and experts to showcase real-world solutions for successfully managing intercultural teams. And the theme for this full-day summit is Taking Action, where experts will unpack successfully applied inclusion strategies, projects, and studies, focusing on what has worked or the wisdom gained from what hasn't. And the program includes a keynote address and 2 panel discussions, one on breaking barriers, which explores models for innovating inclusive practices in skeptical environments, and building bridges, which showcases best practices for managing interculturally diverse teams effectively, both upwards and downwards. And that is available. You can register for it on Eventbrite. Here is the QR code right here. So to find out more and to register for what I think will be a very enlightening event, follow the QR code here, the Culture of Cohesion Summit 2023, this Tuesday, November 14th. And with that said, let's get into our camera here. Let's get ourselves into discussion talking about Miguel, who is, as you can see in the chat right now. This is part 2 with Miguel Abascal, who is the founder of Thrive Faster, Unstoppable Me, and the podcast Newcomers on Fire, which incidentally I was a guest on not too long ago. So Miguel's journey from being a top executive in Mexico to starting from scratch in Canada is inspiring. And Today, we talk about a number of things such as helping others, how Miguel is committed to helping others navigate their journeys more efficiently through Unstoppable Me and Thrive Faster, navigating the Canadian job market. So Miguel shares his 5-step approach for newcomers to navigate the Canadian job market, emphasizing the importance of clear communication, confidence, and engaging with managers, and the importance of negotiation. And Miguel talks more about how it's important for newcomers to not leave money on the table, and that discussing salaries and benefits is crucial in negotiation times. So as always, as I pointed out earlier, Miguel is live in the chat and available to comment, answer questions throughout the chat during the interview. So I encourage you, again, these events, these shows are an opportunity not just to watch passively and learn from what the guests have to say, but also your opportunity to engage and make yourself visible by commenting in the chat, asking questions, letting people know you're out there. It's an opportunity to make some connections that maybe you haven't had yet. So I would encourage you to start off by letting us know where you're watching from. Just type in the chat where you are joining us from to get started off and to make yourself visible and to start your journey into getting more comfortable with networking, or perhaps just networking more if it's something you're already comfortable with. And I think that is something that Miguel firmly believes in, as I do as well. So with that said, let's get into part 2 of our conversation with Miguel Abascal. So getting back to your journey here and going from working in these survival jobs after having such high expectations and being shocked with how things had worked out, tell us a little bit more about how you built up towards what you're doing now. You've got a number of initiatives that you've developed. Tell us about those.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I promised myself, it was that because it took me this long and it really was the hardest thing I ever done in my life. I say, you know what? I'm going to make as much as possible to help others not go to the same journey. If it took me 5 years, I want the other people to take no more than 5 months, 5 weeks, including even 5 days. So my obsession has become like, how can I help people to do this faster, to connect with us faster? And since then, I started with one organization called Unstoppable Me, which you can find at the internet, unstoppableme.rocks, the website. And that's a community where people like you, people to connect, to give, to grow. And it became like a strong network. And we did a lot of mentorship programs. We have a training. We have done a lot with that organization. Amazing people volunteer on the organization. So I can tell you that's one of the things that I feel so proud. We started back in 2015. So that's one. The second one, you know what? I want to make this in a way that is more sustainable and also faster. So we created another organization called Thrive Faster, and the domain is thrivefaster.ca. And this is a career accelerator for people that are willing to hire a coach to pay for experience and pay for speed. So within 6 weeks, you get a program where you can figure out things very fast and help you just connect the dots and build your network within that program. And then we're going to be launching a podcast called Newcomers on Fire. With a similar spirit to you, John, we want to interview amazing people like you and to share exactly, hey, tell me about your journey. Tell me about that struggle. Tell me about the learning and the steps you take to break through, to connect the dots and find your way. All of these organizations, you can find them on my LinkedIn or whatever. But yeah, I can tell you that I find a lot of satisfaction and peace helping others. So on my darkest times or moments when I was depressed and angry or frustrated, and when I started helping others, it cured me. I was no longer angry. I was no longer sad. I was like, oh, okay, maybe my journey sucks, but I'm helping others to find a job. So that was amazing. And then I did it again, and that became like my medicine. So people that were in my same journey and we were like doing the same kind of job, helping them to land jobs faster. So I was like, okay, you know what? I can do this. And since then, I've been doing it after work. From a 9 to 5, I'm a product manager. And from my 5 to 9 or maybe sometimes later, I'm trying to save the world from underemployment.
The more we can share this kind of information, then I think the faster people will be able to get through these challenges and become unstoppable. One thing that is a stumbling block for a lot of people is Canadian experience. That seems to come up. And I know that you have some of your thoughts about that.
Yes.
You can share a bit.
If you follow me on LinkedIn, you will see that I'm very vocal on that Canadian experience component. We are newcomers. Of course, we don't have Canadian experience, but some people come from countries that they are like 20 or 50 times larger than Canada. What is this Canadian experience so special than a country that is 50 times bigger, or that industry is 300 times bigger than Canadian industry in that specific sector? Why is it not transferable, or why is it not significant? So I've been doing a lot of introspection. And since I know you, John, I think actually what people are trying to say, to be honest, is that, of course, you don't have Canadian experience. It's in my resume. You will not see Canadian experience in my resume. And that's why I'm here applying to this job, Mr. or Mrs. Hiring Manager. I think what they're trying to say is you don't have cultural awareness, Canadian cultural awareness yet. That is why I cannot take on you, because it will take me so long to bring you up to speed. And also for you to accelerate your job. And that I can get it, because if I don't have cultural awareness, for example, imagine this, a happy, eager Mexican hugging and kissing people at work. I will have some HR situations that are not interesting, right? So that component, I think, is important, because first of all, understand that we are a culture of cultures, hundreds of different cultures in the same environment, different generations. So we're talking about, it's quite complex. It's a very relational labor market for us. So that is why most of the job opportunities are given. Just like, hey, who knows somebody that is awesome at this? Perfect. Let's bring him on board. There is a lot of networking and connecting with people, referrals. But it's because of that component. Just tell me that this person understands. Because another thing, for example, like, I don't know, I've already said that come to my mind, John. I remember once my manager telling me, like, oh, Miguel, I can notice your fragrance. And I was like, my boss noticed my fragrance, like my perfume. And he's like, she likes it. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to put more. So the next day, put more. Oh, and you can just imagine what happened. Please go back and take a shower. And they were like, what happened? There is a person in this floor that is allergic to this kind of aromas. They were like, wow, blown away, no? So those little things, which sometimes can become major because, again, it's quite complex. I can send you a list of all the things I have done. I'm telling you, I need a second bachelor's and a second master's degree in everything you should not do. So if you have a question, just ask it. So I think overall, it's just, again, with humility, embracing this curiosity about, okay, I think I did something wrong. Just tell me, so I can learn and I can change it. And another thing that I learned is to tell people, because it could be Canadians or it could be Canadians that are not that direct, and to give them permission to give you candid feedback. Because sometimes I was telling them, can you please give me honest feedback? And they were offended because it's like, all my feedback is honest. What are you trying to apply? Okay, can you please give me transparent feedback? It's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, like another word for this. Oh, can you please give me candid feedback? Oh, okay, yeah, okay, they can be more candid. Okay, here's what it is. Another example, just to like, I'm trying to put examples for people just to relate, because this is a very important topic. This is one of the most important topics for a newcomer in Canada. Questions are not questions, or some of the questions are not questions. And this took me a while. So let me explain you. I'm one of the most beautiful, amazing French Canadians in the world. And my wife, she sometimes tells me, Miguel, would you like to take out the garbage? And I was like, no, I think I'm going to watch TV. Thank you. And then she will get mad, right? She said, oh, what happened? So that's one example. Second example, an interaction with my former manager. Hey, Miguel, this report is amazing. Looks everything good. What do you think if we change this section? You already said that it's amazing. It looks good. Why bother? Let's not change it. No? Okay, that's another example. Another example, a colleague at work. Something like, how are you? And then they're like, yeah, thanks so much for asking. I'm super excited just to notice that my colleagues are like 50 feet away. Because how are you is just another way to say, nice to see you. Or how is it going? It's the same thing. Just, hey, nice to see you. Hello. All of these little things. Again, once you know them, you navigate them. And it's good. And it's not about knowing English, by the way. You can know English and it's not the same. You need to understand Canadian. You need to speak Canadian.
Those are great examples. And yes, I'm laughing because, of course, as a Canadian, I know exactly what those mean. And I can understand how confusing that can be if you're not used to that indirect communication. And I do think that it is something that would be good for us as Canadians to also be aware of when we're working with people from other cultures. I think that your advice of saying, hey, can you give me some candid feedback is valuable so that we know, oh, okay, it's okay to speak a little more directly, because there is that sense of, for us, that's being polite. We don't want to upset other people. So that's why we'll use those indirect ways of communication. And yes, I know from speaking with people from other cultures where English is a first language for them, that sometimes it can be confusing to speak to Canadians. It's not a language issue. You mentioned about Canadian experience. I would guess that a lot of the hiring managers who even would bring that up probably even aren't aware of that themselves. That's actually what they mean. What kind of thoughts or recommendations would you have for those who are coming to Canada and are encountering that concern about Canadian experience, about how they could perhaps deal with that or find a way to get around that?
That's a great question, because that's exactly what I tell people. If I tell you, if you come to my meeting, I'm going to give you $1 million. Will you come to my meeting or will you show up? Most of the times the answer is yes, because they see a lot of value. If I just go to your meeting or show up, you give me $1 million, that's a lot of value. So a lot of people get really frustrated when they send invitations, they send emails, and no response whatsoever. So one of the recommendations that I have is, okay, let's look at what you are writing, what you are saying, because if you're not communicating your value properly, you're not going to get responses, and it will take time for you just to start building that momentum. So I always say, focus on 5 steps. The first one is confidence. And if you're like me, who was angry, frustrated, upset, like things are not working, I was an executive here, I'm just doing survival jobs, then you need to change that, because it's going to show up. Even though when you go to the interview, you're going to reflect that in a way, and that is not going to help you. And that didn't help me, and that's why it took me even longer. So the first one is confidence mindset. The second step is the communication. You should really pay attention in terms of like how you are communicating, because one of the big components of communication, it's clarity. I used to say people in Mexico, it's very normal, and there are different cultures that I'm aware, that you do more than one kind of job, one kind of role. Try to do 3 or 4, because if you don't do one, you get fired, because you need people that are more productive. Remember telling people, oh, I'm a business analyst who is also a financial analyst, a marketing analyst, and a project manager, and I can do your sales. And people was like, no, I don't think you can do all of that. So, yeah, I just did it for 4 years and I quadrupled the company. And I confused a lot of people, because here is more linear, here is more silo, more specific. Like I'm a junior project manager who became a project manager and a senior project manager. And it's like, oh yeah, I understand your career. So again, clarity, very important. Communication of your value is super important. Then it's consistency. You need to show up even when things are really bad, when things are not working, because that's going to build momentum. That is going to help you move on. Because without momentum, yeah, definitely things are not going to happen. So again, within that process, another step is the connection. So like the 5 C's, again, confidence, clarity, communications, connections, and consistency. And within those 5 steps, it helps you navigate and find what you're looking for. In this case, essentially your opportunity or learn from other people and growing.
One other thing that I remember you mentioned before, when you got into a position here in Canada, that it took you a long time before you even got offered an opportunity for promotion. And I think that had something to do with communication.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. I come from a culture where if you work like crazy, at some point somebody's going to notice. And at some point somebody's going to tell you, now you do this. So this is your next level. So that was my experience. So I remember working like crazy. And then, oh, you know what? An opening, finally an opening. I'm the best candidate for that. And suddenly somebody else get the job. And I was so angry and I was so frustrated because, what happened? Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. But in this case, instead of today, I had learned to ask questions and to ask the hiring manager and all of this. But at that time, I was like, okay, maybe next time. And then another opportunity came along and I did my best and nothing. Until at some point, talking with the hiring manager, is like, why I'm always overlooked. I bet that my superpower was the invisible, because even though I was working crazy hours and delivering so much, nothing was working. I think the manager said, oh, I was not aware you were looking at a promotion. And he was like, what are you talking about? Everybody's looking for a promotion. It's like, we never had this conversation. So I just assumed that you were happy where you were. But yeah, you definitely are better than the person we hired. So if I had none, yeah, you would have a job. That kind of thing. I was like, oh, please. Just again, it's not assuming, it's asking questions. The end is to unlearn everything that you have learned, just to understand things are different, and don't judge and don't assume.
That's one way where I think in Canada, we tend to be very explicit when it comes to saying what it is. Hey, if we're looking for an opportunity for promotion, and self-promotion is such an important thing here, and a certain skill to show that you have an interest and to communicate to your manager, this is what I'm doing. Because if you're depending on them to notice, it's not necessarily that they don't care, but they just might be so busy. And I think, as you mentioned, maybe it has something to do with that kind of silo mentality, that unless you communicate directly to your manager and let them know, hey, this is what I've been doing, they may not necessarily be aware of it and wouldn't necessarily suggest to anyone else, whether it's a hiring manager, to give you an opportunity for a promotion. It may feel uncomfortable at first if you come from a culture which, as you said, good work speaks for itself, but it's going to get you a lot farther, I think.
Now I can tell you the way I approach that is completely different. Now I engage and I involve my manager in my journey. And I'm currently here and I want to be here. And then if I just ask them, how can you help me? And then here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, here's my gap. What are your ideas? So I just engage in this process and we build the plan together. And with that, it's much easier to have conversations about, hey, you know what, there is an opportunity or this is happening, changes. Now I'm super equipped to have those conversations. And not only that, because before I will never negotiate my salary, but now I always recommend it like, hey, do not leave money on the table because the first offer might not be the best offer. In fact, that might be the lower end. Maybe you can ask for other things. So again, all of these things, of course, come with experience, comes with time. But once somebody has done it, then that confidence rises or get boosted. And then with that, you just continue on your journey. But that first job, that first negotiation, that first everything that you get, it's very important. It sets the pace of in your new home.
It's been a great conversation. And I know that there's so much more we could talk about. So I think we're coming close to the end of our time here. So maybe there's some thoughts that you'd like to leave off with.
Yeah. One, do not waste time on trial and error. And something I wish somebody had told me when I came to Canada was like, hey, maybe mentoring and coaching is an expense that you are not considering right now because you pay rent or you're really tight financially. But looking back, I spent 5 years earning survival job wages. And now that I compare that with the money I'm making, which is not a lot, by the way, but it's just a decent amount for a senior project manager, I left a lot of money on the table. So I wish I had just that notch. Okay, just do the numbers, do the return of investment. Like even if it costs whatever it costs today, it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of times of return when you get the job that you want and when you're starting your journey. So again, if anything, just learn from my journey, not waste time on trial and error. Has been already done. Somebody already went through the process. That person has a bridge. Just pay the bridge or pay the fee to go through the bridge and then you go to the next level very quickly. That's my thinking right now. And I'm doing that now in everything that I do. I don't try to figure it out on YouTube anymore. I just go and, okay, who can coach me? Who can be the person? And the results are just immediate, like faster. Yeah, that would be my advice to all of you.
Fantastic advice. Well worth the investment to save time and pain. Thank you so much for your time, Miguel. It's been a pleasure, as always. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, John. The pleasure is all mine. I'm super excited. I wish I had met you probably 30 years ago. And today we'll have a completely different conversation, but my test has become my testimony. The mess has become the message. But at the same time, I appreciate all the efforts that you do for all the people like me, like many of us that are just like, I'm struggling, I'm facing a lot of things. I hope that these episodes and that your program helps them. Just one more piece of information, one little spark, just can ignite that fire of just keep moving and finding exactly what you're looking for. John and I, we're in the same business. We're in the business of helping people live their Canadian dream. Thank you so much, John, and I appreciate everything you do. Keep up the good work.
That was part 2 of the conversation with Miguel, and he had so many valuable things to share in that. Really, a lot of the things there were a number of things that stood out to me, but in particular, that bit of his struggle of trying to let his work speak for itself, as he was the common practice in Mexico. Really, I think that is something that many newcomers who come from cultures where talking about yourself is considered arrogant is something that really many newcomers struggle with when they come here to Canada. They expect the thing is, if you expect things to be the same, then chances are you're going to lose out, just as Miguel did for a number of years. Losing out on opportunities for advancement, for promotion, simply because his manager didn't just thought, hey, well, okay, must not want it because he hasn't spoken about it. So really, that's one of the many things to understand about the culture. Even after you get a job, this whole idea of selling yourself does not end once you get the job. You have to promote yourself to your manager. It's not arrogance. It's not being egotistical. It's just, as I said, managers usually tend to leave you to your own devices as long as they feel that they can trust you. So they're not going to be necessarily paying attention to everything you do unless you communicate it to them. And this is why networking is so, and even as we mentioned as well, the networking side of things, finding those opportunities that come up. This is a theme that comes up again and again with many of the guests that I've had here in the past, is the importance of taking that risk and connecting with people and networking. One thing that I have found when I've had conversations with some newcomers here, even those who take the steps to get into networking on LinkedIn and connecting with people, then when it comes to the idea of actually asking to have an informational interview, to have a conversation, they freeze up. Oh, well, I can't speak to this person. They wouldn't have the time to speak to me, so it wouldn't be right to do that. And again, that may be common practice in perhaps the culture that you've come from, but here in Canada, you have to do this. You have to connect with people and find a way. And most people will be quite comfortable with it as long as you promote it, as you approach it in the right way, which is something that I've talked about in many of the sessions that I've done. I know Miguel, I'm sure, through Thrive Faster and through the guests that he has on Newcomers on Fire, emphasizes these things as well. And this is also something that I'm putting forth in a course, an on-demand course, which I will be revealing more information about soon, going to make available to the general public based on a number of the workshops that I have done for organizations such as JVS, also for the Toronto Business Development Center and other groups. So I'm going to be making an on-demand course based around that. More information to come up about that soon. And of course, if you want to reach Miguel, there is, of course, his LinkedIn profile. Also taking a look for unstoppablemE.rocks, and also, Thrive Faster. I know there are a number of things, and I will also, he did share a couple of the links in the chat. So I'm going to just show also about that. Just throw that there. Let me see. Okay, coming up here. Well, in any case, there is also the link also to the interview that I did on his podcast on Newcomers on Fire. And also you can find out more information about taking a look for Thrive Faster and Unstoppable Me, all of these different programs that are dedicated to helping you as a newcomer succeed faster based on the lessons that Miguel learned from his own journey. And speaking of other lessons and things that are coming up, we have our last guest for 2023. Yes, because the show is going to be going on hiatus over the holidays. Our final guest for 2023, Luki Danucardianto, who is a career coach who's helping young professionals and students develop their career in something that's personally a career with purpose, that's personally rewarding. And he moved to Canada when he was a child. So he has that experience of growing up in Canada, but also having his roots in Asia as well. So he's particularly empathetic towards helping immigrants and the children of immigrants, although he works with everyone. So some of the things that we talk about in our first episode on November 15th, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Luki emphasizes the power of networking. Well, hey, what a coincidence. This keeps coming up all the time. Networking is essential. Luki emphasizes the importance of not just knowing people, but also being known by senior executives. Bridging cultural gaps. Luki's journey of bridging his Eastern and Western identities is a testament to the power of embracing different mindsets and possibilities. And challenges for international students. Luki discusses the struggles international students face when looking for work, and he gives lots of advice based on his own experiences as well, working with international students. Again, a person with a lot of valuable information, whether you're a newcomer or international student looking to create a career with purpose. So I encourage you to tune in for that. Again, this is going to be the last guest for 2023. This will be 2 parts, so make sure to tune in for that. Until then, keep navigating your way between cultures towards your goals.